Hey everybody, Joe Rexrode and Adam Sparks here at Vanderbilt Stadium, where the Vanderbilt Commodores jumped to a 21-3 lead. Adam lost 37-27 to Florida. This was a chance at a signature win. This was a chance at the first home win over Florida since 1988. It was also somewhat marred by a really ugly scene late first half. But let's talk about the game first. It's a big squandered opportunity here.
Yeah, I asked a question after the game of, to Derek Mason, well, you had a chance for a top 10 win against Notre Dame. It slipped by. This was a chance for a top 20 win, and it slipped by. And you could see the body language when I asked that question, because despite his answer, which was, we don't look at the rankings, those sort of things, he does, because he knows this is a big opportunity. Had they won this game, it would have been one of his 3 top 25 wins, one of the best of his tenure. But, they gave it up. When you're up 21-3, and right after here, we looked at some of the stats of that. That's ties the biggest road comeback Florida's ever had of any game, SEC or non-conference. And so, when you have that type of lead at home, you can't let an opportunity like that slip away, and they certainly let it go.
Yeah, and look, it's not their fault that Vaughn got hurt. That's tough. He looked tremendous. He was the best player on the field in the first quarter. He had, I think, 131 yards on 8 touches when he was all done. He had a 75-yard screen pass, 43-yard run. He looked fantastic. He was due for one of those finally, give Keyshawn most of the work days, and who knows how it would have turned out. But, they still are fine at running back, and those guys I still thought played fine. I thought Kyle Shermer did not play as well as he needs to play. I don't think he's been playing as well as he needs to play, and I'm sure there are other factors, including, finding that secondary receiver, but he's missing some throws right now that, to me, this team doesn't have enough margin for error for him to miss.
I think also, I don't think you get any player to admit it, but I think there was also a sense of, Vaughn gave them a pop they did not have all year, and when he left the game, I think Kyle Shermer felt the game went back more on his shoulders. Maybe some for Kalijah Lipscomb and some other things, but I think it really helped Kyle Shermer kind of settle in and say, hey, I got a guy behind me that can break a 70-yarder, and all of a sudden he doesn't anymore. And I think the pressure tilted back toward him, and he didn't handle it particularly well, but the whole offense didn't.
Now, the Vanderbilt defense, you can't trust them. Derek Mason trusted them in the third quarter and punted from the 42 of Florida. They went 95 yards, and then they never trailed again. You can't trust Vanderbilt defense. They did make some big plays. They got the big couple turnovers, with Florida driving deep in their end, which were big plays, and gave them a chance. But ultimately, Florida moved the ball at will today. And look, Florida's not great. They're going to face better offenses ahead, like Ole Miss, for example. They're going to also face worse defenses. To me, the Vanderbilt offense has got to win some shootouts for them to get to a bowl game.
Well, Vandy's defense, I think, did half of its job. They got 3 takeaways.
Yeah.
That led to 2 touchdowns and a field goal. But, we've said it many times. If you look at the defense Vandy had 2 years ago, the bowl year, it was good in turnovers, but it was also good in the red zone and good on third downs. And this defense is not good on third downs. 12 of 19 they gave up on third down, 3 of 3 fourth down. When you're giving up those types of numbers, not getting off the field, that's why we saw a time of possession that was almost 2-1. And whenever you have that kind of disparity, you're not gonna hold on to a lead, and they certainly didn't.
Last thing, there was obviously the incident, and I wrote a lot about this. To the credit of both sides, the second half was pretty clean. Players hugged afterward. Dan Mullen and Derek Mason hugged afterward, but it was ugly. Especially the coaches screaming at each other. Todd Grantham from Florida, if you've seen the replay, that guy looked like he was ready to brawl. And I don't know what Derek Mason said, but I will tell you that if anybody tells you that the hit from Hudson, if I'm getting his name correct. Houston, excuse me. Houston.
Ondare Odengbo. Yep.
It was not dirty. They are fooling themselves. It was absolutely exactly what they're trying to get rid of in football. You can't do it. It was a defensive player. He launched himself into it and gave him an extra elbow. It was a ridiculous play. So he should have been ejected. Luckily, Odengbo came back. Everything cooled down. But for a minute there, it looked like we might have both of these teams meeting on the field, not playing football.
Well, and anybody that looks at that and say maybe Vanderbilt was the aggressor, because if you look on the video, the Vanderbilt team came across the field. But Let me flip that over. Vandy's injured player is on Florida's side. So when you're Derek Mason, C.J. Ayu, the defensive line coach, when you're 2 coaches, a couple of trainers, and 1 injured player on that side of the field, if you're Florida, you can't allow your players or your coaches to yell at guys right there over an injured player when it's, 85-4 or whatever in terms of numbers, and that's why Vandy's players reacted and came across. Fortunately, there was enough separation to keep those two teams from brawling.
Yeah, and again, they moved on, played football. So up next, Vanderbilt at Kentucky. It does not get easier. That's a really tough, especially defensive team, and they're going to have to figure a lot of things out. So that's the story. Tons of coverage at Tennessean.com. Thanks for watching.